每当常规赛进入最后一周，理论和概率是最常见的字眼。
跨界 Mark 无法走的情况下，转头 W 想要去回头流，但是嘎啦已经倒了。
无论是为排名、为全年赛季积分而全力以赴，还是为尊严、为捍卫过去的荣耀而咬紧牙关。
看有新闻的上来，大家打风 Q 的第一波的速度也是拉满，拿下3杀，那最后两边 AD 是一个对胜 ，Screamer 站到了一个最后。
打好每一场比赛，才是对胜利最大的尊重。领跑一整个夏天，头名宝座怎能轻易拱手让人？开花结果的一届，何不继续前行，成为新的王者？常规赛收官不会是终点，竞技永不停歇。
That's right, we don't need that intro anymore. We don't need to look at Jackie Love because it's not about him. Today is a new day, a day that heads towards the end of Week 11 and the summer split here in the LPL, where we now stand in WE's arena in Xi'an, where they are on their journey towards playoffs. Where every win counts would be an understatement here for this team. They're relying on so much more as they enter the arena, and it's rare that we get to have a look inside WE's arena. Going into today, it is important to note that these guys are coming in with their heads held high, and people like Post feeling in a pretty good mood. And so he should. This top laner has been one on the back of our minds for the whole of 2019. A player that I have been looking at personally to be the carrier, with Mystic's hair shortened as well. Yep. People have been looking at him too, but in different ways. Raz, welcome back to the LPL. Good sir, it's good to have you back.
Oh, it's nice to be back. It's nice to be back. Can't say the same for you. I'm just kidding.
What do you mean?
It's all right. It's all right. I'm just kidding.
We've casted a lot together over the week, and it has been a pretty big week. Before we go into the expectations and the changes, let's first talk about yesterday. It's just a quick reminder. FPX and Top Esports played once again.
So, unsurprising, FPX and Top Esports, the top two of our league, taking down the teams that were not in playoff contention, OMG and Dominus. But, you know, it's nice to be able to get that final send-off for OMG and Dominus. Dominus that made that deep run.
Yep.
They were trying to fight for that playoff spot, unfortunately end up getting kicked out at the last couple days.
It was a big match for FPX, though. Remember, that secured their first place position. Now, no longer can Top Esports or the RNGs of the league catch up and take that away. They're the best once again in the regular split.
Yeah, and so I just love the fact that we're seeing FPX in top form. It's kind of crazy because if you think about 2018, how it was dominated by Invictus Gaming during the regular season, they lost just one set in spring and summer split. It's mirrored what FPX has had. And while IG couldn't nail it down being able to get the LPL championship, they at the very end of the year got that last laugh with that world championship win. FPX, I'm saying right now, you have to know this team because they have been dominant for the last two splits.
And the chances are this team could be going to Worlds. Another semi-final security here with how playoffs work, which we'll be talking about a little bit later.
And speaking of Invictus Gaming, still haven't locked in their playoff spot. We'll see them later today. Hopefully they can do it, get the job done.
Going up against Rogue Warriors later, as you mentioned. JDG, RNG, 2 for RNG to try and make that climb to top 2, depending on Top Esports. But WE and V5 will be kicking us off as well.
Yeah, remember the 3 teams we need to look at. JD, Invictus Gaming, Team WE. By the end of the day, we may know who our 2 lock-ins for the playoffs are going to be.
Yes.
That is something we may, get a complete resolution on. It's really dependent on the first set. Team WE. We'll talk about them as we go into the today, but, a lot on the line.
Because first, we have to talk about our match of the week, our final matchup of the summer 2019 season here in the LPL.
Yeah, and you get to see our top 2 teams right now, Top Esports and FPX. 2 lesser-known teams, 2 teams that are definitely gunning for LPL finals. It's funny because for any international fans coming into this, they would expect an RNG, EDG, Invictus Gaming. But you look at both these teams, in all likelihood, they may find themselves in the playoffs going up against each other. This would be a great finals preview.
And I love that matchup. If Top Esports are able to win over FPX, they will secure second as well.
Yep.
So it's a big matchup for them to guarantee semi-finals, and that's the conversation over the weekend. playoffs, what it looks like, and who's actually going, as we talked about those final 2 spots remaining.
So let's get that playoff bracket up, because I just want to see what if it would look like if it would happen today. Like, we all know that LNG and Invictus Gaming currently land at 8th and 7th place spot.
Yep.
So if it were to, you know, you just get run into this current spot, man, I feel really bad for anyone in the bottom half of that bracket, because Invictus Gaming is currently performing. It's the fact that the entire split, just being able to find wins at the very beginning, really put them in this position. So put yourself in Suning's spot. You have to go up against IG in your first set, then you go up against RNG, then Top Esports. It's a battle in every run. So for me, I would say that you don't want to be on the bottom bracket.
No, you definitely do not. Of course, LNG, IG, the 2 teams looking to secure their positions there. That we'll find out a little bit more about later today.
That being said, you know, while all 3 sets in the bottom bracket are incredibly strong opponents, like the top bracket has, you know, both the quarterfinals and the semifinals being just brutal.
True.
So let's just say if you're in the shoes of LNG going up against EDG, I mean, I'm pretty happy about that in comparison to EDG versus IG. I'll be cool with that. But then BLG and FPX are 2 teams that you know are certainly top 2 in my eyes. I think BLG versus Top Esports is the kind of comparison you want to make, where I'd say currently BLG, if we're talking about power rankings, I would rank them as second. So
wow.
I think that playoffs is definitely going to be a rough one to go through.
It's going to be heated. This feels like our most competitive split, and I know I said that in spring, but reiterating again here in summer. So, of course, LNG, IG, as I reiterated there, 2 positions that are not secure. And if we look at that spot, even with WE, it still seems to be a heated run.
So that's the thing. Remember, that mock playoff bracket is literally just if it was to be locked in right now before the 2 days. My expectation is that both Invictus Gaming and Team WE end up going over, because Team WE are making that run.
Yep.
They look phenomenal right now, and I'm not really calling them. I think that Team WE will be able to make it, while LNG has been the team that's been suffering.
Sure.
So just to take a look at it, the playoff update for Team WE, really it's just as simple as this. If they lose, they're out of playoffs. It's too tough for them. But if they win, really they're hoping on either LNG or Invictus Gaming to lose their game. So really, let's just say if IG lose today, then perfect. Team WE have that spot there. They can just leapfrog them. If both, let's just say Team WE win and then IG win, then like, oh my goodness, we have to sleep, wake up tomorrow.
That final day.
And you have to watch LNG versus Suning.
Yeah, because that's going to be a matchup that you don't know which way it's going to go. So you don't want to leave it to that.
Exactly. And you're in that really awkward position as a squad where people would say, well, LNG, I mean, what happens if they tie in series wins? Well, the problem is then, you know, they would tie in points as well. Then you would look to the head-to-head and realize that really earlier on in the split, LNG took a 2-1 victory over Team WE. LNG would then go over if it would just come down to the tie. So for Team WE, it's about the series wins that matter.
And about this win today going up against V5. And that's why for WE, they can't let down. They're kind of backs against the wall in some regard. And against a team like V5, sometimes that can be difficult, Raz.
Yeah, and so this is when we talk about the strength of schedule that Team WE would have. Because if we were just to take a look at it, they're on a goddamn winning streak, like a real big one. And it's mostly because we kind of expected it to happen. The strength of schedule was certainly in their favor. We didn't expect the Invictus Gaming win that started it all off.
That was a big surprise.
So that one was a huge win for them. And then they went up against Vici, LGD, Rogue Warriors, and now that, you know, going up against Victory 5.
Yeah.
You expect them to come out today with a 5-series win streak. The Invictus Gaming one that really kicked it all off is the most important one, because if they end up tying with Invictus Gaming in points and everything, they have head-to-head. Team WE would go over. So there's a lot to keep track of as we go into today's series and then going into tomorrow. I'll end up updating people so you have a great idea on that one. But it's a fun time being in the final days.
I mean, I'm expecting a fun matchup from WE and V5 just to get into the specifics, because against V5, they also beat IG at one point in the split as well. So these are like, the small crowned kings. We'll take our crown and we'll see who throws it away in the end.
Victory 5 is just a really weird team. Now, they're kicked out of playoffs, of course, and they're not in playoff contention, just for you people out there.
Yep.
But as a team and an organization, like, they come out and have those big wins that you've mentioned. And then the next week, when everyone's starting to hype them up, they just look awful the week afterwards. And it's more so on the team style. Remember, they have a lot of young players on that team.
Yep.
And, like, being able to see Windy as a great example coming in and still having some strong performances. But in recent games, especially the game that was decided that they weren't going to be going into playoffs, they've been bringing in Otto. And Otto's been, of course, a player that has been heavily ridiculed.
After one game.
Well, no, after his entire career.
Before that, excuse me.
His entire career. The moment he got into that game, people were already memeing him.
That's true.
But the problem is, if you're judging him based off his last game, no, that was just a bad draft.
And that's just not fair.
That's just not fair based off that game. And then the other weirdness, it comes upon layers, by the way. First of all, if you want Otto to come in, you would expect it to be in replacement of Windy.
Right.
Because Mole is their strongest asset on that squad. And then it's actually Otto coming in for Mole. And you're like, well, first of all, I'm already upset. Second of all, you didn't even give him a proper chance because you had a bad matchup, bad comp. That was just simply not the time to put him in. So I love the fact that he's getting a second chance. I'm not loving the fact that it's still now Mole being the one taken out for that one. So a lot of problems I would have.
Well, I'm expecting hopefully a different draft. You know, after what we saw in Game 1 of V5 in the previous series, it was about that draft. There's a lot of criticism towards what Game 1 was offered for this V5 squad. So hopefully we get a fresh start, as you mentioned, for Otto alongside the team, which this time has changed.
Just as a quick correction, so I was actually incorrect on the idea of them taking out Mole this time around. So Mole is going to be playing alongside Otto, just making a correction on that one. So that's something that's positive.
Improvement.
Thank Lord, because that was the situation we were put in last time around when Windy was playing alongside Otto. So I would like to see what we're running here from Victory 5. Remember, their complete focus is on next year, while Team WE is trying to just brute force past them. I just want to see what Team WE currently look like and what they're situated because, you know, we haven't seen them in some time, at least on this broadcast.
That's true.
You know, being able to pick up the wins that they have and a lot of the strength for Team WE comes in crucial members of xiye and Mystic. They've been able to get to the, you know, the lengthier points of the game unperturbed. You've made a mention coming into today's games that Post as a player has certainly recognized his identity, like, or at least that he's coming out really strong these days.
Yeah.
And it's because he's able to play his, you know, the play style that he had, but at the very least have that connection with the rest of the map.
And increased performance, you know, like beishang as well, Post at the start of the split, it's very messy. A lot of questions for the team that was hyped up with rookies starting into spring's playoffs. They don't perform there, they come into summer, and it continues downhill.
See, that's the question that I had coming into today's game, is that the rookies that are in question need to find that consistency because the veterans will play really well. xiye and Mystic for certain. So let's just go through the lineup here. It's going to be Post coming up into the top lane, beishang, their jungler. We're going to be having xiye in the mid lane, and rounding out the entire map is going to be Mystic and Missing in the bot side of the map.
And of course, we've got Dog 8 there as well on the side of WE. So this is their moment. All they need to do is beat V5 and then rely on LNG and IG to take a loss, just one of the series, for their best chance.
Would be great to see that happening. It's going to be fun to see how this week pans out, but it all starts with this one. Mole in the top lane, Ben4 in the jungle, Otto in the mid lane, rounding out that bottom side of the map. It's going to be Y4 and Max, with Hanyi as their coach.
Excited to see Otto back in action here in this mid lane. I was fearful that we'd just see it back over to Windy, to Mole to end out the split, but entering the Xi'an Stadium for the first time here in this split, we get a good look of what this team looks like with Mole and Otto finally in the rotation together.
Yeah, and so just for you international...
No.
Oh no, get those signs out! We don't need those signs!
Does he like it?
No.
No.
No one likes, you know, the wheelchairs for O's, all right? No one. Just putting that out there. It's a brand. It's not a positive brand.
No, it is not.
But, you know, going on to the fact that, you know, to the earlier point you made about mid lane, top lane, you know, Otto and Mole, to me, this is the best thing about Victory 5 is the fact that they're very fluid what their solo laners are.
Yep.
We made this point very consistently. It's really funny that Otto's coming into the mix because he started out his career as a top laner, been thrown into the mid lane, and so he is the type of person that very easily can fit that identity.
Yeah, an identity that has become iconic. I mean, there's other teams in the LPL that swap around mid and top, but it's so fluid in this team that you don't know what's happening until you're actually on Summoner's Rift. Pick ban doesn't allude to anything because remember, Mole played champions like Zoe in the top lane. He's so fluid, he doesn't even know.
Yeah, they just try and go for the best matchups. I know this is a constant point that we make, and they were the ones that started that entire show. Like a consistent force of just having their solo laners play the best matchups no matter the lanes. And it's fun to see that being adopted by the likes of Suning. it's funny because if we're just talking about players on Team WE that's very fluid in what lane they go into, it's Mystic. You know, if he finds himself like a Vayne pick, he's like, send me top lane.
I will go top. Let me manage.
He's done that about 2 or 3 games by now.
Yep.
And so that's a fun little bit to kind of remind yourself of. But in today's matchup, the matchup that really kind of like is important to me is xiye versus Auto.
I agree.
Because for Team WE, it's always been about freeing up the mid lane, getting xiye ahead, allowing him at the very least to rotate across the map and help out Mystic and Missing so they can get to their, like, you know, the mid game that's been a pretty strong asset to them. But for Victory 5, they have been so much about getting the best matchups imaginable and being focused on early game picks that will be a great counter to Team WE's entire goal. Because the only thing for Team WE that is really centered around the early game has been beishang. beishang has been really tasked with being that bridge, that early game bridge that will get them to the mid or late portion. So I want to see if Victory 5 can lock that down within the laning phase matchups alone.
Someone who, while we are just mentioning junglers, the jungle matchup to me kind of struck a chord in the back of my mind because very similar champion pools. I know Ben4 has been, you know, playing a lot of the Gragas, the Olaf, and it's the same with someone like beishang. He gets that banned against him a hell of a lot of time.
Look, if you're a jungler in the LPL, you very much likely will have a very similar champion pool. You're probably playing Olaf. Everyone here plays Olaf. You're probably playing Jarvan. Everyone plays Jarvan. Gragas has been the go-to for Ben4 for a very long time. I'm just sad that we don't see the Sejuanis. Where are the Sejuanis?
You keep calling it. What was your word for it? Did you say broken? Did you go that high?
Yeah, I went that high.
You went that high. Well, Sejuani's a great pick, but we are going to hear from Otto and his thoughts moving back in the roster.
也是我的老对手，然后也是这个赛季的最后一场了。我就想跟 WE 的xiye说一句，干就完了。
That's magnificent. Otto, come out and fight me.
Yeah.
To watch
Remember, for anybody you know that doesn't know the deep history of Otto and his time in the LPL, has been on Young Glory, has been on Saint Gaming. So now we're going to be hearing from xiye, what he's going to be saying, hopefully as a retort.
状态最近越来越好了，然后个人的话更多是从心态上的调整，然后让自己不要那么着急。
He said nothing about Otto.
Nothing about Otto. We're keeping it short and sharp today, though.
Just absolutely no cares. One guy saying, oh, an epic rivalry between me and xiye. I'm ready to fight. Come out and fight me. The other guy is like, I don't know, who's you know, just going to talk about my team.
But a lot of focus on WE, you know, hitting that mark, improving. He says he has to adjust himself. And for xiye, you know, coming towards playoffs yet again, that's what's on the line here for WE.
Yeah, Team WE last split, remember, a lot of the analysts, including myself, expected them to go and make the run.
Yeah.
A lot of the hype that happened about JD, that whole Caps making that dream about JD winning the finals. Oh my God, no!
Why is that a banner?
That's an actual...
No! Stop it! Why is the camera banning?
No!
The thing is, WE's the largest arena as well, so there's like up to 900 people here today.
All right, well, you guys are having your fun, all right?
That means the potential for up to 900 people to be in support.
Thankfully, I didn't forget my point. That was the easiest way for me to have ever forgotten my point.
What were you saying?
I was saying that Spring Split for Team WE, they were the team for us that we expected to make the run into a finals view, or at least to go up against FPX. JDG murdered them in the first round and really took that spot. But it's crazy that, you know, they could come into the same position, and we have that real respect now for the first round. That first round in that gauntlet can really go and make the distance because you have the likes of EDG, Suning.
Right.
Especially if Invictus Gaming get in there, you expect them to just not end at the first round. So this is going to be a real tough one. You said how it's the most competitive split in the LPL. You definitely have to give that respect to the first rounders because, funny enough, not a lot of people will have faith in the semifinalists.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people have faith in FPX as an organization because they know that Doomby, whenever he's in the playoff runs, can never get the job done. Or when Top Esports just last split, going into 4th place, because a lot of the times they perform during the regular season, but when they get on the playoff stage, some
crumbled.
individuals like 369 and XX tend to crumble, as you mentioned. So it's going to be a pretty good one going into the playoffs, and it's just about a week ahead.
All starts with this, though. A must-win here for WE to continue their dream towards that set playoffs here in summer 2019. V5 looking to keep them down and knock them out in Game 1.
All right, let's get down to it now. 9.15. Champions enabled. Fun stuff.
All of them. Yeah, that's fair. So what do we know about V5 and W? Well, WA, I mentioned, there's a big priority on the OLAF and across the LPL, in fact, as you corrected me on that. Tom Kench, Yumi bans. But I'm still seeing things like the Karma as a first pick priority. Things like the Sejuani you mentioned, Raz. See if that comes through here today.
Yeah, certainly. Remember, the Silas is up in a... no, it's not. So that's a Sejuani being a pretty large opportunity to be picked. And remember, another one that comes to mind, you already mentioned the Karma, so I would go towards the Sejuani and willing to give up the Karma simply because you have so many good lanes here. Pose, xiye, Mole, and Auto. That much like Invictus Gaming, that if you just lock your best player into a Karma pick, sure, it's great in laning phase, but then you're making it solely about 80 carries here.
Yep.
So I want to see both of these teams start to kind of prioritize their solo lane.
Where Wi-Fi hasn't been a traditional AD carry. He's been picking things like Orianna, Vladimir. Wi-Fi a very flexible man, and this game he's going to be paired up with what seems to be the Nautilus in support. Max's favorite pick so far in summer. WE retort with what has been a great duo.
There we go. You'd expect that, Aurelia. I know it's going to be good
Yep.
for both Pose and xiye to go to xiye's hand. The Sejuani being locked in, you very rarely see a high priority in Sejuani in the LPL. But when you get both the Olaf and the Silas and the Gragas ban, then you expect jungles to be the first lock-in rather than going in the second phase, and that certainly raises in priority. Is this going to be the pick for Otto? He's just going over to his coach. Coach, talk to me. I'm the one picking here.
Dorium, no, Akali instead, which has just risen up after the Shuriken flip got buffed so far up.
All right, let's see where that ends up going. Could go into Mole's hand. He's a great assassin player as well. So I just love the fact that both your solo laners are well known for their assassins. They can't throw out the Yasuo when Windy's not in the lineup. I know that they're both great with Yasuo players, but nothing's quite like Windy's Yasuo. So, ooh, is that the Glacial? Lock it in. All right, we got Brahms.
Missing's picked this up already before, so for WE, that's an early start towards the support. Still need 80 carry and another solo laner to go.
And remember, Team WE get the first pick of the litter in the second phase. They're completely fine leaving certain ADs open. I think they would much rather have the Ezreal picked up on second phase. I wonder if Victory 5 are just going to start banning ADs themselves. This is actually going to be pretty fun to watch, because then you can start dipping into, like, good example is Y4's Kalista that I think he's really best known for. And having a Nautilus get first pick for yourself, then suddenly Y4 can go towards the Kalista fairly easily. Kaisa is another one that I'm starting to think of, so let's see what the lock-ins are going to be since we're now just absolutely taking out the AD carries that are meta.
All of them will go. Now remember, if we're talking about champion pools, for someone like Mystic, he's played the Vayne, the Jinx as well. There have been some unique AD carries here on this world-class ADC.
All right. No, the Sivir being banned. That's an interesting ban by Team WE, because if that's going to be an Aurelia mid, then they're not giving themselves an option for wave clear if they find themselves behind. And when Team WE doesn't have an option of wave clear, and they find themselves behind as per usual, then my God, do they just start ramping up the pressure, and we see a lot more team fights. So
yeah.
Ezreal lock-in as expected coming in for Mystic. Remember, that's his namesake champion, and also just a really good pickup with a Braum next to you. I think that's a Vayne cosplay. I want to say that's the Vayne skin.
I feel like you only see the wig, so that's it.
Yeah, but I'm pretty damn good with it. And also, I saw the shoulder guard, so I'm pretty sure that was a Vayne specific.
Because you don't wear shoulder guards in real life, do you? Not normally, I should say. Wow, Swain.
I am gonna love this. We're gonna talk a lot about the Swain changes that happened in the meantime. But for Kennen to be locked in as well, it's gonna be interesting. I'm expecting that to be a Swain top lane.
Okay.
I think Kennen,
well, hang on. Yeah, no, actually.
Thinking emoji.
Now,
is that an AD carry, Kennen?
Do you remember? No, but do you remember what I said about Y4?
A bot lane Swain.
Yes. So Y4 has already played the Orianna, the Pike, he is not a traditional AD carry, and he's still one of the few playing sorcerers in the bottom lane.
And Swain's passive is just so good with the Nautilus. The amount of CC you currently have in that powers up with Swain's pullback is pretty damn good. So we've got ourselves a pretty fun composition coming in from Victory 5. You very much expect that to be an AD Kennen up into the top lane, or else that team's pretty heavily focused on AP.
That's true. Unless the Jarvan goes full lethality. I'm sorry I even said that. But of course you're right. That's going to be a matchup into the Aurelia as well. And by the looks of it, because xiye has gone for the Corki as the final pick. So standard on the side of WE with their tournament life on the line. They're like, we need to play consistent. And it's very easy to do through that composition.
And let me tell you how much you're sweating bullets if you're Team WE here. Because you're going up against the team you expect to win against. And you know for certain they're going to be throwing haymakers at you, not because they're just Victory 5, but they're Victory 5 with literally nothing else to lose.
Yeah.
That they're just going to be trying to prove a point. And when you go up against something that is completely not standard, then you have to be able to play fluidly, you know, or against the picks, rather than just focusing heavily on what your play style is going to be. So this is going to be a tough one for Team WE, I think. Swain is not a champion that they would probably have a good understanding of since the changes went through.
Yep.
We'll talk about it pretty heavily as we get into the game. I've been playing a bit of Swain just to understand the changes.
He feels great at the moment.
That's debatable.
Tell me what.
So, I mean, that I'm going to say a little bit is
Just tell me quickly.
So, if you're a skillful Swain, a very skillful one that can stack up the, you know, the passive stacks that you would have for yourself.
Soul fragments, right? Yeah.
The soul fragments, you actually put a large output of damage early on in the game. But, I mean, that's a core part of the mechanic that got taken away. So, we'll talk a little bit more about it as we get into Game 1.
WE's tournament life on the line. Let's get into it and see if they can make playoffs. It's Swain talking time. Good to see it back here in the LPL. I mean, we don't recommend anything. We have seen it in the past on people like Zoom, Gimgoon, top laners who play this to fruition.
Yep.
But down in the bottom lane on Y4 to enter into this series is a new one.
It's going to be fun to talk about because I think this is a Swain pick regardless of the changes. I think that picking up the Swain is primarily just about the pullback mechanic that you would have with the CC that's around him. And also, I mean, he just is able to get to his core items and key teamfight pressure before the AD carries that Team WE had. So he's going to be useful really early on. Level 6 is what we're talking about here, while Team WE is still trying to get the Corki and Ezreal locked in. But just to talk about the changes a little bit, so I'll say the goods that I liked about the Swain change, which is now you can chain in your CC and ultimate combo burst really early. You're not locked in by a certain timer. You can go into your ultimate. You can immediately get the burst down while they're locked down in CC. That's if they're fairly low HP and you don't need the full, you know, stacking damage. So that's something that I like about it. Also, you just get a little bit more HP since now soul fragments increase your maximum HP by, you know, 5 per soul fragment stack.
That's right.
And he has a little bit more sustain within the lane because of the fact that if you're getting a soul fragment within the lane, then you get about, I think, 4 to 7%, you know, per your maximum health. So like basically as you go into the lane, you can sustain based off of the pullback that you would have. You can keep in lane for a little bit longer. And you can trade through the minion waves on your Q too.
That's what I love. Just the fact that you can now actually reliably use your Q and not get blocked by minions.
Yeah, so that's a positive. I think in terms of mana sustain, it's a little bit lower since you can easily do that in the previous patch. It's going to be a little bit harder. Just kind of talking about the mana sustain that you would have prior. And also just the max damage burst that you had earlier on in the previous kit.
Yep.
I thought was just really threatening. But speaking of threatening, Ben 4 is coming up top lane.
Well, that's a flash immediately from Mo. He comes in anyway. The flag drag underneath turret. Is he going to die? The Conqueror's down, and yes, the double down from Ben 4 works out.
Great timing on the gank. I mean, Mole had that one pushing into him. So the fact that Post not only had a wave pushing away from him, Didn't have the jungler anywhere near him. He was in a doomed position. I wonder if this is a similar doomed position for Max and Y4.
Oh, really good dredge line on the Mystic. Yes, Arcane shift away.
Okay.
And Y4 walks up to the wave. They're trading from Swain online.
Now Max can just say, how you doing?
Just 1v1ing the Sejuani. This Nautilus is on a mission.
He was so close being able to cancel out the Sejuani coup over the wall.
Yeah.
The moment he got that instant chunk onto Mystic, not only are you not going to dive this way, but I'm going to go find you.
Like you said, for V5, when you have nothing on the line, when you're just playing to really show what your team's about, you play to your limit. And I know it's very early in the game, but this is a great start from the bottom lane of V5.
Yeah, it's a really good start, and this is the risk that you have coming into this game, and knowing that Victory 5 are just going to go and slug you down. They're just going to try and fight you. Bot lane was already going to be a difficult one for Mystic and Missing. I think they have a good amount of protection.
Yep.
So if we're just talking about as the game goes on, if you look at their composition, they have a great amount of kite back with Ezreal having the blink. Same with the Valkyrie on Corki. The Sejuani and Braum certainly going to help out. It's actually incredibly difficult with a 4 melee. No, it's not 4 because of I'll say 3 melee composition with a Swain to be able to get to the back line reliably. So that's something to watch out for in the major team fights. But as you can certainly see it, xiye is certainly putting a smacketh down on Otto.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk that Otto's actually been given a chance, it feels, this game. On the Akali, this is where you go, okay, what is Otto's form? Being given the tools, the window, and as you mentioned there before in this lane, getting traded off by xiye, so he's going to have to back away a little bit early.
Traded down and also just in a CS deficit because of the matchup. What you saw right there in front of your eyes, Ben4 coming in, just helping out his push, giving him the solo experience and goals, so he's a blessful jungler. A lot of people will look at that and say, what the hell is the J4 doing? But no, he did the right thing. So that's nice to see. But going back to the idea of Otto coming back and being given that chance, there's been a little bit of a controversy around like fans' displeasure of Otto coming in because of that reputation he's had in 2014, 2016. And I like the fact that, you know, recency is all that matters. The fact that if he's playing well in practice, to give him that shot and opportunity on the team. He has that veteranship because he has the experience on stage that, you know, Windy certainly doesn't have. You can even say, in comparison to Mole, I would also give him that edge. But that's something to watch out for and see what Otto can provide for the team now, and maybe if they keep him on to the next year into the future.
And that is a Corki bug, ladies and gentlemen, if you're wondering why that dog is still firing
It'll
out
get
Gatling
reset.
gun.
It'll get reset if he actually uses a Gatling gun.
Okay, good.
But he just needs to use it.
I thought you were going to say until he dies or something, because we'll find out how long it takes to kill a Corki. Is WE a sandwich here? This is not good. V5 able to collapse on in, and Otto over the wall with the perfect execution. WE going to find him, though. Has he gone too deep? Just out for safety, and V5 almost catch Mystic in the chase.
It's nice to see Victory 5 just collapsing in like that. So being able to see Victory 5 alive in the early portion of the game, Team WE may have that small early lead in the game, but it's mostly just off the CS advantage in the mid lane. So it's working out well for them at the moment.
Which is pretty large, about 16 there for the Corki, who was able to pick up Sheen off his first back as well. Same with the Ezreal, actually, to keep in the back of your mind, as WE making an invade underneath Ben4.
So this is a very rare game and opportunity. Okay, well, you know.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh,
that was
no.
a bit close.
I'm just going to have to say that his flag was on cooldown. I'm making that remark right now because that would have been the difference. But yeah, usually Team WE have to be fighting for their early game lead. Like with comps like these, they wouldn't have an early game on the bot side, mid lane, but they've been running these compositions so frequently and been having harder matchups both mid and bot lane. Nice try, Ben4.
Yeah,
but they've been gifted a really easy early game in the mid lane, even with a Klepto on the Corki pick. So he doesn't have the added sustain simply because he sees this as an easier lane matchup. Now, Otto using his ultimate in the bot side, being able to get on top of Mystic, he's going to be paying for that because he doesn't have that early, you know, little bit of burst that you can help out. If Ben4 was in the area of Flag Dragon, he certainly would have done it and a lot more, he would have been in a more aggressive position if Otto had the ultimate to his name.
I was just looking towards xiye while you're mentioning the Corki in the mid lane because he picked up Phage. Now,
he's stacking gold.
Yeah, the Klepto alongside with a 25 CS lead early. I'm curious to see the gold here because that Corki would be up close to 1,000.
It's crazy, right? Because, as I said, it usually takes a lot longer. And xiye is one of those members that just farms so well.
Yeah.
He's an incredible farming player, which is why he goes to the Corki even out of meta. Because when Corki is out of meta, it's because of, well, the game ends too quickly.
That's right.
You won't get to that 3-item power spike, let alone the 2-item. By the time you get your second item, be a rapid fire cannon or Infinity Edge, the game feels like it's already decided. Now, the games in the LPL right now feels like it's right down Team WE's house because they're getting longer. It's certainly getting into a lot more team fights. It's getting more even at the mid-game stage. And for that purpose, Team WE is super empowered, not only in this game because, I mean, xiye is having an early laning phase when Corki's should be going off later on, but because the meta is certainly helping them.
And speaking of this early game, beishang's able to push in while that shove's coming out in the mid lane as well. You're seeing Ben 4 and this Sejuani go out as they turn for Otto. He walks too far forward and xiye doesn't use package, it's expired, but Ben 4 now in a lot of troubles. Permafrost has to be flashed away from. WE are on a roll.
Yeah, they knew they had lethal there. No eyes on where xiye was. They just knew that he was just walking away from the mid lane, but look at this.
Good never move. We're into the Demon Flare ready once again from Y4. The Batwing enabled. V5 looking for the 2v2.
Yeah, it's just going to be used for sustain now because they couldn't get a lockdown on either Missing or Mystic. And good timing here from beishang. While Mystic and Missing end up backing away from the shade, now they can move towards the Cloud Dragon. Let's see what the next one's going to be.
And that's all they have to do. Backing away from this trade means that it's a better one for WE once again as Mole pops the ulti. There's a Vanguard's Edge from Post. Jumps to the Scuttle to enable his exit. Now for V5, they really want this because the Jarvan's on the top side, but Post can just walk.
Yeah, Pose actually could have dealt with that 1v1, but he knew better. He knew that Jarvan was coming up topside too, so that was Kennen securing the Scuttle Crab there for Ben 4. And if he doubled down in the fight, would have also lost his life. Really good turn, as I mentioned. And also just in Fog of War, they didn't have an eye on where or how quickly Corki would be joining Sejuani there.
Ooh, 30 CS up after coming out of the replay. V5 need to make a move here in this early game, and this is their call onto the Rift Herald.
This could be one of those game-ending fights, honestly. At this stage of the game, if Victory 5 lose a fight in this area, they would really be down and out.
Nice dodge from beishang as well. The depth charge comes in. He's looking for the steal into the Cataclysm. beishang will not be able to find it as Otto picks up the Rift Herald and the kill. At the end of the day, they're channeling onto him as Mystic picks up one. And WE still want to take the fight. Max over the wall. No! Ben 4, what did you do?
We're going to need a replay for that one because I don't want to call him out for... I feel like it's him. This one needs a deeper investigation because the Nautilus didn't want to die that way.
Well, very far up in the lane, knows he can surge out of there, but after the fight's done and dusted, V5 pick up the Rift Herald, but WE turn it on the whim of the Corki.
Good kills going down to Team WE at the end of the day. It really worked out for them. Now, you're right. At the end of this one, he was getting close to being able to steal this one. Was locked down.
Didn't have Smite, actually.
Yeah. It's unfortunate how low it was, too. And now time to see who ended up proccing Blast Cone.
Oh!
No! Help!
Oh, Post flashes low. He's like, okay. Hits him as he flies over his head. That was magnificent.
He waited, too!
I know.
He's like, open the door. This is the getaway van. The moment he opens the door, he just full throttles it.
Left behind.
Oh, man.
Well, that was unfortunate, and of course, you know, we're in WE's arena, so of course you slow that down, zoom in, and highlight it.
Look, the Nautilus would have died anyways, but don't just stand there waiting for him to flash over.
Well, as we return to normalcy for a quick moment, the Rift Herald, remember, is still on Otto, as we're just doing this dance again in front of Raptors. This is the third time beishang's come through, but Ben 4 able to smite it away is a small win for the Jarvan, who is falling behind.
I want to see what Otto can do here, or what Victory 5, I suppose, can do here with the Rift Herald, because that was the gambit they made for it. That's, in fact, the extra bit of gold that they lost in terms of kills to be able to get that for themselves. So if they can make a pick on towards xiye, who's consistently shoved out, with Ben 4 looming around with Cataclysm, they also have a Nautilus, so really it is just that one pick that can start nailing real gold for them. They have about 40 seconds left with turret platings online.
Because you need to do something here. It just feels like V5 are going to lay over and, or lay down rather, and not be able to catch back up as Ben4, maybe this is the play towards the mid lane. Flag and drag available, but WE have moved mid as turret plating now 30 seconds down.
Good strategy. Everybody knew that it was going to be about mid lane. In fact, Missing said, I don't give a damn. It's not like I'm going to hide in fog of war.
Yeah.
Just go out and help out with the wave clear, just so they don't even get an opportunity to lay it down.
But they're forced away in the end anyway. That's a Trinity Force Corki so early on with an Ezreal who has the same item now moving to the top lane. WE at 14 minutes in have full control, and as turret plating falls down, it doesn't matter. They can now push this turret, get a bit of extra damage.
Small thing to take note of Team WE's composition. I talked about the kiting element there, but also they just have a pretty damn good sieging element. Good poke with the Ezreal and Corki. They can set up around turrets pretty easily. When you have two major tanks of Braum and Sejuani, then you can have one person set up to deal with flank, one person that can stand and deal with the people in front of you. It's a really classic siege comp, so I like the fact that Team WE has multiple options in both team fighting and sieging. I want to see what Victory 5 can do to stop this. They got Swain situated up top lane, but he does have teleport.
Does have his Rod of Ages as well as, yeah, that's a 0.
That's a 0.
But for WE, bit of gold onto the member that matters most at the moment.
That 320.
And that was by himself as the package is here. Look at Mole, pops the ulti immediately. This is a 1v1, but xiye takes a lot of his health. But remember, the Corki's still in a decent position with Hexdrinker. Has to get out of there as teleport's coming in. Was this a mistake from Y4? The Swain ascends up, and V5 are looking to turn the fight with the Glacial Fissure down. Glacial Prison combo with the combo of the two-shot barrage. WE Groupers 5 first, and they explode. Y4 is dead and out for the count.
Thought he had himself a good flank to support the play that Mole was being caught up in, but very easy and very quickly Team WE get themselves out of that situation and then group around the teleport. Now, take a look at this. Mountain Dragon's now going to be going on to Team WE that's already now started their dragon stacking.
And a second one there to follow up as well. When you talked about a sieging composition, what do they love the most in this world? Give them 2 mountains and they will continue forward as we finally get eyes on this Rift Herald. Otto drops it in the top lane to get a bit of pressure down, but not the turret itself.
Yeah, I mean, largely it's seen as an investment tool now. An investment towards being able to pick up a turret if one play ends up going in favor of Victory 5, but I don't think this one's going to help him out.
It was that ward in the middle brush that spotted him out. Otto gets hit once, but WE are not going to fully commit. They don't know where the enemy jungler is in Ben4.
You know, I'm a fan of the project skin there for Akali.
Yep.
It's certainly not her best one in my opinion. I think she has a lot of great concept skins. When I say concept, like the idea of Nurse Akali, the idea of the soccer one.
Ah, yes.
All of them are great ones that I just tend to flick over and use very equally because she just has a lot of great skins.
She has a lot of skins.
Project one is, I mean, people will like that idea regardless, but...
the 5-point strike sounds cool. You have to
yeah,
admit,
definitely.
That sounds awesome. And
100%.
even the perfect execution, it feels slick.
Definitely, 100%. That's why, much like Project Z, if you are playing an assassin, you just want that cool element when you're going in for your all-in. So she gets that. KDA also is just incredible. That's just their best skin no matter what, so we take those.
That's true. Well, you're not going to feel anything cool about Otto this game, unfortunately, because even with the first item now picked up, you're still comparing him to xiye a lot, who level 12 on the Corki with that level difference and the BF sword. Remembering that he also optimized into the Hexdrinker meanwhile.
Yeah, he kind of needed that. You saw what he did when he tried to go for the all-in. Remember, that was a package all-in too. Fairly empowered going towards the kill on towards Mole. He got that turned on him to press the attack cannon. But then going up against Otto, you expect
Otto
it to be the same.
Good dodge away with the Shuriken flip. He'll actually get out of that one, so ultimate use while post down on the bottom lane is going to get taken down by V5. That is a pick for a pick that goes in V5's way.
Yeah, but now they got to hold this one.
And these turrets have been going down pretty quick as Otto's going to get the Shuriken flip on missing once again. We're not looking away because beishang is zoning this Akali while xiye just does so much damage to these turrets.
They could probably double down on this wave and get this turret. Would mean a lot to Team WE's topside pressure and would have a lot of, pressure moving onto the Baron buff coming up in 2 minutes. So let's see if they end up picking that one up for themselves.
Good defense there from V5 just in the nick of time while Mole, this is a Blade of the Ruined King cannon as you mentioned it would be. He's on the side split mission.
Really good mid game coming in from Victory 5. As you saw in the bottom left corner there of Aurelia getting caught out. This is the sole reason for them losing this tower now.
Yep.
It was Otto playing incredibly safe from the top side of the map so he can now defend that top lane turret for as long as possible but we didn't get to see that there from Pose. Ends up dying for it, extra gold going in towards Victory 5, and now they've gone to a decent enough point. I don't think this turns into anything, but these are my words.
Yep. And I guess in this game we didn't get a chance to talk about the top element for V5 because we're so focused on what the Swain was going to do, how Otto was going to return to the Rift against xiye, as that's a flash burn from beishang with the Cataclysm aside. Just a quick trade-off, but returning to my point, Mole this game, he's got 2 items. That's a split-pushing Kennen who's 2-0-1, who had a 1k gold lead over Post. So for V5, as you mentioned, the mid-game is looking good with this side lane.
Yeah, they can continue to play a more split-push-centric playstyle. Usually, the Kennen in team fights, even if he's AD, is still a pretty healthy element if he comes on a flank. I want to see if he gets Guinsoo's Rage Blade, because the Guinsoo's Rage Blade Kennen is actually incredible with how many passive stacks and stuns that he can dish out during team fights. So it's a really nice thing to kind of look forward to. Maybe that's going to be his 3rd item. I want to see if that's going to be the case. But, I mean, the composition's looking fairly strong for Victory 5. It's more so, how do they handle Team WE?
Oh, moments like this with the Vanguard dead, just an instant kill. WE just turn in the mid lane. They're sick of waiting. Max is going to go golden hold off with the flash there as well. WE get the pick once more, and now they can keep pushing as Y4 takes a chunk, and Mystic is doing so much burst.
Yeah, being able to take down Auto, but it's so hard to take down the chunkier members of Victory 5. They got a wave here, though, so they can still get themselves an advantage on turrets.
Mole's joined up with the cause as well as xiye moves back to the mid lane. Y4 at half. Sustain not quite there as WE pushing, but now backing away.
All right, trying to get good back timing for themselves. I liked where Missing was placing himself, just to deal with the flanks that could potentially come through from Ben Force. So always covering their bases there. Really good job from Team WE. I want to see the full context of the fight, though, because it really just looked like they were just ascending, or, I mean, descending, just randomly out of nowhere onto the mid lane turret. They have great setup in the top side, but I didn't get to see the vision around bot side if it could be that clear for them.
There's a quick ult here from beishang, who now moves to the Dragon. A double mountain on WE. You know that Max wants to check this, but triple on the cards as Dredgeline misses. Max looking for the engages onto beishang. Otto gets chunked out by xiye as Ben4 tries to get in the backline, but he's going to get locked down. Not good for V5. As for WE, nothing is connecting except all the mid lane damage from xiye. V5 are on the run, and Otto just has to get out of there, but a flash forward. xiye continues the march, and Mole's going to be the next target. WE look slick and incredibly accurate.
That is the best team fight position for Team WE to take. Able to kite right back into that small corridor where Braum and Sejuani are going to keep you firm. You can't move. So you can definitely see it when Mole tries to get that ultimate down, any damage past the major tanks. And take a look what it results in. Team WE pick up a fight and a Baron buff.
And a 9k gold lead now in their back pockets. And they tried so hard to kill xiye in that fight. Ben4 was first, but unfortunately he was the first to die as xiye now 4-0-4. They could not find him.
If we're just thinking about how Team, Victory 5 needs to play out these team fights. Akali iconically wants to find herself in the back line. She wants to be able to, if it's diving to the front, that's fine. As you can see, the hook misses. But take a look at how they end up trying to dive into Mystic. All you need to see is Mystic and Corki. They have such a safe positioning. In fact, the J4 Cataclysm only makes it worse for Victory 5 to take this fight. So, yeah, I mean, not only is it a bad position to start, then they can chase you down, and Mystic has eyes on this first pick, and then, of course, knows that you're going down a corridor. You have nowhere to run. Whew.
The death of Otto. Now 0-4 in this game. I know there's going to be a lot of chatter, but something we can return to, because with Baron buff and then almost a 10k gold lead, WE doing it here. Now getting pulled in by Max. This is going to be beishang just turning for the engage. Arctic Assault, Permafrost onto Mole while Mystic comes in with a beautiful ultimate. Cataclysm locks him down, but again, into a corridor while Mystic cleans up the rest of it. WE can't do any wrong here with a triple kill already going to xiye. He wants Otto. He wants the Quadra. Is he going to find it? There's the Quadra. Let's shuttle down for the Penta. Mystic, slow him down. Get the damage. We have to find Y4.
He can't. Y4 is just going to play it lame. Go straight back to base. You can't do it. Y4 is not going to give it to you, but a Quadra kill for xiye. humongous for the man, and this should just be game with how long these death timers are.
10 seconds on the Jarvan. Max is going to come back alive, so the Penta fully denied. But you're right, at Quadra, nothing to scoff at here with 804 Corki getting the inhibitor for WE.
Max playing this one safe. No one wants to end up dying before the full team comes right back and alive, so there's no dominoes falling over. Team WE still needs that one last team fight to nail this game down.
It's a shame we don't have the Baron power play gold here in the LPL, Raz, because this was a big one.
This was crazy. Remember, this was all planned by Team WE. Beishang went straight for it, knowing that the teleport would come in immediately afterwards. And so, locked them down in CC. Xiye can follow through. The Braum ultimate slowing you down so there is no way for you to walk away. And then the only thing they had to wait for was Akali to get out of Shroud. Gets in there for such a long time. From that point, all they're doing is taking down the turret, so it wasn't just aggroed onto them until Xiye was able to pick it up. So Xiye had a humongous game this time round.
Yeah, he's played it so well from the laning phase to the team fights. Consistency's been the name. As Otto is getting the same feeling here in the middle of the game and gets to walk away from the true shot barrage, that's immediately the mid laner gone.
They're just getting pushed back bake so frequently. They're going to be losing this inhib so easily. If you're Team WE, roll up to the Nexus turrets. At this stage, you have so much damage. Goad them into fighting you.
Dotting the eyes, crossing the T's through the top lane, but the rest of WE move mid with the Baron still pushing up. And V5 have a bit of the wave clear, but with triple inhibitor down, you are going to have doubles rolling in, but we're not getting to that point. As for WE, they turn for the final fight. Otto goes in for the flank, but finds nothing. As Max going to get locked down, and I don't even get a chance to call the fight because it's immediate execution. Post to negate the damage, xiye to poke them out. This is WE in prime form.
Deathless is what Corki and Ezreal is. This was their game, 10-0-6, 4-0-10.
Mole, the last one to die here, Raz. You know it's only a moment, but for WE, turning their attention after finding him to the Nexus is a no-brainer. A clean game one from World Elite.
This reminds me of Team WE Spring Split, where they just slaughtered JD in the final series that they had, running into playoffs.
Yes.
This is playoff form. They just need to lock in the numbers.
A game one win is a great way to start. Remember, for WE, a 2-0 is what they would love. And this is looking pretty close to it after what was a shellacking from this team.
Yeah, Team WE, dog. I would be so heartbroken if this level of Team WE doesn't make it into the playoffs. They're on such a large momentum swing.
Yep.
This would be their 5th series win in a row. And so being able to see this kind of team playing on this level, and I'm talking about specifically xiye and Mystic, coming up trumps right now. Let's keep it going.
Wow. Great early game from xiye and 26 damage. Those are the numbers that tell you so. He showed the level of experience and skill between him and Otto.
And just so people know, the Victory 5 composition is just sink or swim. It's either snowballing because of the early fights going in their way,
Right.
Or they're just doing nothing. And that's all you saw that game. That last team fight, Mole couldn't get autos down because the slow Braum was providing. So the tankier members of the team was providing such a large space for the backline. There's no way for them to end up diving through because they just didn't have position or space on the map to work with. So easy stuff coming in from Team WE, because while the early game was a little bit slow, there was no way for Victory 5 to come back in. The Rift Trail was a good start, but I mean, Team
They
WE,
lost so much
they
for
couldn't
it,
do
though.
anything. Yeah, they lost a lot for it, and then Team WE were like, okay, we'll just send 3 members mid, wave clear, wait out the entire timer so you can't get turret plating Zop fit, clock strikes 14, and then you can't do too much.
Because you look at that early game, and I'm talking pure early game of the first 10 minutes, where the bottom lane felt quite active. Top lane first blood here for V5 as well, with the help of the jungle, and you thought, great. But then you look mid, and that lead kept building and building, and it came to like 50 CS before we got out of lanes.
That's the thing about xiye. You know, xiye last year's Spring Split, I felt was the second best mid laner at that time to Rookie. Like, he was performing incredibly well. The first split that Condi was gone from the team, you were like, I don't know who would be able to hold the flag for the squad. Of course it's xiye. Xiye comes in huge and has been playing well ever since. So it was more so, it was never a question on xiye's individual skill.
Right.
It's more so if the puzzle pieces around him can get sorted, that was certainly the case with beishang and Post. Post had a great game this time around, was playing super respectfully. The only time he died, and it was preventable, was bottom lane when he got, you know, dealt with by 3 people.
Yeah.
Then he was pulling out too much. But there was one point in mind where, you know, he was doing Scuttle Crab, he gets opened up by Kennen. He could kill the Kennen, or he could look for the fight. He would usually do that. But he knew that there was an extra motive to it. That Kennen just wanted to hold him still because J4 was coming along, and Pose didn't take that bait.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of points that I see in my mind that says that Team W right now are looking incredible.
Because you remember my interest going into was the jungle matchup, because I was talking about how beishang played in playoffs of spring and coming into summer, where there were those inconsistencies of a newer player. But seeing him perform like this, it's the enabling factor for xiye and Mystic, and you see the best of W.
Yeah, 100%. We'll have to say we'll have to see next game though to be able to at least confirm all of our suspicions.
Right.
I want to see if Victory 5 end up playing a lot more of a standard composition. What happens if they find themselves in a deficit, if they can claw right back in? Because the mid game was looking pretty dicey when Irelia ends up dying on bot lane. 3-man on the top side of the map ends up getting that advantage there. I think that Victory 5 still has moments. I want to see that in game 2.
Because I think the moment was around also the Swain as a good point that we were coming into the game with, where for the Swain, he looked pretty good in lane. We're getting towards a mid game that could be facilitated, but the rest of the map crumbled around him.
So right now, I just don't like Swain as a champion.
Fair enough.
Because I don't think that the passive that they gave him with having extra health is actually significant enough. You find yourself later on in the game having 200 extra HP based off your passive, and I would much rather have the early game burst that you have with the soul fragments that you'd be stacking and you can set up for than that. So that's my concern. I would not want to see a Swain again, is my thing. I think they just made him a worse champion for the best of players, but I think with like players that are kind of average with Swain, then I think that he's a better champion.
Well, let's see what we get in that bottom lane for game number 2. I like the innovation from Y4 and from V5, but they need to claw it back here in the series right after this break.